Hello everyone. So today I want to talk about a different topic, and that is how your reed is what dictates your embouchure, which is what dictates your vibrato and your pitch placement. So this is very interesting. And also slurs down, other things like that. So many things are related to this. And I want to reiterate, or actually just iterate, okay, that the reed is what is responsible for the embouchure, okay? It's not the other way around. It's not like we come to the oboe having an automatic embouchure preference. It's always that we're responding to the reed, right? Naturally, this is the thing we're responding to, so that's what's gonna happen. So if we're used to responding to a reed that's unstable, and actually not just unstable and flat, but also a reed that's too hard can have a similar effect on the embouchure. It can make the embouchure flatter as opposed to more like this. A reed, especially a reed that's hard and flat, really, okay? So let me give an example. And the reason I'm talking about vibrato, how it can affect vibrato, is because I'm always thinking of things in terms of singing. And a vibrato that sounds like this when someone is singing, an opera singer or whoever, that sounds out of the tone and bizarre in most contexts, okay? I'm not saying that there's never a time and a place for something, but in most contexts, that sounds completely bizarre. And this is actually a vibrato defect that singers would call wobble, and it's where the pitch is not really even discernible because it's so out of the tone. It's so above the sound as opposed to within the sound or below the sound, you know? It's not resting in the sound. It's kind of imposing itself on top like a, I don't know what to say. But this is like a motor or something, you know? So as opposed to being within the tone. And this is, so instead of saying, a singer would go, right? Right? Got a little spit in there at the end, but this is what I mean. On a stable reed where you're able to make an embouchure that has more of an O shaped or oo even shaped feeling to it, where the embouchure is a little more forward, it places your throat and your mouth shape, the resonance spaces, the pharyngeal cavity, that spaces, the pharyngeal spaces that singers talk about, that's the biggest resonating space for a singer. It relaxes that. It allows that to be relaxed and not be jammed up. And it allows for more space in the mouth too. Not like this kind of space, but just more this kind of space, tall space slightly in the mouth, right? So this affects a lot of things. Slurs down, entrances. I remember my teacher, Miss Stroman, used to say, I was trying to tell someone, do this for entrances, do that, support more, do this. And then she just told the person, just play to the bottom of the sound, the pitch floor. And then things came out. Now, is everything gonna come out in this video when I demonstrate it just right away? I don't know, but right, when you're at the pitch floor, things sound deep. It's about the depth too, right? And it's about things coming in right there. And so this affects the vibrato, affects slurs down and things like that too. So listen to this. Whenever I play with, say I was playing on a flatter, more unstable reed, and I was making more of an E-shaped vowel, because that's what you end up having to do when you're playing on a flat reed. Because again, let's go back to the point number one, which is that it is the reed that dictates the embouchure, not the other way around. Not the other way around, okay? If you're used to playing on a flat, unstable reed, your embouchure will be more E as opposed to O or oo, or even just ah, okay? With O or oo, as opposed to being a little more forward, you know, not in a way that's like, or something like that, but, you know, just a little more, right? Natural. So this affects slurs down too. Right, that's the slur in Don Giovanni. Remember that? That part in Don Giovanni where you're like, that's more easy because the mouth shape is more O or oo, right? As opposed to E, which is then this would happen. I mean, it came out actually, my air is flowing, right? But right, it's just a little more it just doesn't feel like, oh, is it gonna, you know? And the color, it's shallower, right? It's like also like 15 or 20 cents sharper, right? So that kind of ends up happening. It sounds less warm. The overtones have been squelched from the sound, right? As opposed to, oh, I have to reorient my ear. Oh my God. When I go from that to, ooh, okay, just give me a second to recalibrate. I mean, it takes me a second to get back into the zone, really, after playing in that, it like screws with my brain. Anyways, because I'm going from playing at 443 to like 440 now. Anyways, this is something we commonly do to raise the pitch, right? If we're playing on a reed that's probably more pitched at 438 than 440, to be frank. Okay? But this is what I mean. It affects the vibrato too. Now let's get to that. How I was talking about the singer's vibrato that sounds more like, ah. So this is a vibrato where I'm making more, if I were on a flat reed, now this is not a flat reed, it's very stable. So it's just gonna sound kind of, you know, it has the same effect. See, I'm doing the same vibrato here in my body, the lower part of my body and whatever, throat or whatever. Like I'm feeling like I'm doing the same one, but because my embouchure is more of an E, that automatically brings the throat placement up, and therefore everything sounds uppier. So as opposed to going, see, that has so much more ring and fullness. It would project a lot better too, right, in the orchestra. Right? This is more ma, ah. That's the same kind of vibrato quality. As opposed to, right? Something changes in the placement when you go E. If you're trying to hoist up a flat reed, right? To get it to play at 440 or 441 or 2, whatever you're playing at. If the reed is flat for what you're playing at, that's what ends up happening. It doesn't matter what the context, right? So, this is what I mean. You can hear the obvious pitch change, right? But this again causes instability and slurs down. It causes the vibrato to be more like which is a defect, as I said, and sounds just bizarre if you were to sing it, but somehow we don't seem to question it with oboe. And this is because I'm always relating things back to singing. Our aim is to transcend the instrument. I don't care, and I don't really want to hear it when everyone's talking about like, oh, you know, like, but this is just a different preference on the oboe and this and that. Yeah, okay, people can have different preferences, but when something sounds bizarre and a singer is doing something weird on stage, people don't hesitate saying something, right? And so it's the same thing with the oboe. If something just feels out of the character or the emotion, or just kind of sticks out or feels weird, you know, then we should be able to safely say that with, you know, not sounding like a jerk or anything, you know, without sounding like, you know, a judgmental jerk or something. It's just pointing out things that are obvious orally, you know? And also trying to identify where those things come from, right? So, that just has a lot more depth and ring than, right? That sounds a little, it just sounds shallower. There's not as much of a, right? That vibrato, that sound and everything in the vibrato as well. Everything is just more whole. It has more overtones, more ring, more dimension, right? Just like a voice wouldn't want to be like, ah, we wouldn't want to squeeze the voice like in that kind of way. Ah, ah, whatever, like it doesn't matter. I'm not like a great singer, like in terms of opera, right? I sing Indian music, but whatever. And we mostly only sing in chest voice, which I actually think is helpful. Anyways, but I digress. The thing is, this reed's getting a little dry. But anyways, the thing is, because I talk too much, honestly. But the thing is, I just wanted to point this out and just give everyone some food for thought that, you know, it's not like we all just prefer, like when you pick up your friend's reed and you're like, oh, this is sharp for me, or oh, this is this for me or that for me. It would behoove us to ask deeper questions, like, oh, well, maybe like, how does that affect how this sounds when they play it, or this or that, you know? Because look, it goes into articulation too. So let's see. For example, I explained how it affects slurs down, it affects vibrato, you know? And it makes the vibrato sound unnatural and wobbly, which is, you know, a vocal defect, kind of, not a vocal defect, but a kind of what people would call. So this, you know, and on the other side of too wobbly, you have a vibrato that's too right? Which is also if a singer has with like a flickery kind of too much, that also means there's something too tense right there. So on the other end, we have that as well. So guys, this goes into basically healthy vocal production in a lot of ways. It kind of, it's not even just about aesthetics. It can be observed in like, what is a healthy vocal production? I really think the more we come back to the middle and what's natural, the more that it makes sense to us, and more people can just be like, wow, yeah, that sounds nice, okay? So, not that preferences don't exist, right? But I'm just saying. There's so much variety and so much variation among the people that I really respect, you know, artists I really respect. But it's just about there being a trueness, right? Something doesn't feel like it's being unnecessarily squelched or this and that, right? So, this is why when you'll give your reed to a player who is used to playing on flat reeds or unstable reed, they'll often play a reed and be like, this is kind of, you know, flat, or sorry, kind of too sharp for me. Or sometimes a player who does play on reeds that are kind of stable will have kind of issues with being sharp, right? Or what we could call flarp. And it's because, but these are all terminologies. Some people who use these terms still, you know, we all can still struggle with it, right? It's just a matter of really playing on something that allows you to play to the bottom. That's neither uppy nor flat, and especially not uppy and flat, because that's the worst combination ever. Because then you just don't know what to do. You go into your high notes and you have to bite, but then you come down and you're sharp. Okay? That's the worst feeling. You want to find a way to make a reed that, you know, is deep on those notes that tend to be sharp. It has enough cushioning and bottom, but also is up to pitch in the high notes, right? But that doesn't mean we go for a reed that's shallow or lacks depth, right? Yeah, this reed's getting dry, so we can hear as a gathered crow, right? A gathered crow, and whatever you want that to be, a C sharp, but it's not going anywhere. That also goes into the reed, right? So we always respond with our embouchure. This is what I'm basically trying to tell everyone, share with everyone, is that it's not the other way around. And so if we were to actually analyze things of how does this sound in terms of singing, it'd be quite different. Yeah, this is definitely getting over-soaked a little, but I'm just going to demonstrate a couple more things, like with articulation. I actually think with articulation, let's see what I can use. Oh. What's that Beethoven 8? Right? It's just the ability to be buoyant, right? I'm sure it's a little duffy sounding while I'm doing it right now, but as opposed to if I were playing with a more E-shaped embouchure, it would just sound more bipped. As opposed to, I'm forgetting the notes. Oh. Right? As opposed to, you know, as opposed, you know, that just sounds a little bipped and dry. It doesn't sound like it rings, right? As opposed to, guys, I totally haven't played today, so, right? As opposed to, right? That's what this kind of E-shaped embouchure does. So it affects everything, you guys. It affects slurs down. It affects the vibrato, you know? If I were to play, let me just play like the ending, like kind of, like, you know, cadence of a phrase. If I were to do it with the E-shaped vowel with vibrato, let me see. And it's easy to kind of go sharp, but like, it kind of sounds out of the tone, right? Because that hoists the throat up, as I said. But if I go, oh, more that O or U shape, more in the sound, right? Beautiful, like singing, vocal glowing, right? That kind of multi-dimensional quality to the sound. So, more colorful, right? More colorful, less dry and shallow. So, and that resonance feeds into the vibrato. There's more of a centering, more layers to the sound. You know, you can more tone to vibrate within, right? And most importantly, it keeps the throat placement relaxed. But you can't. I can try to push my throat forcibly down while having an E-shaped embouchure, and it just doesn't do anything. We're responding to the color of the sound while we vibrate. Okay, so when you have an E-shaped embouchure, the vibrato just ends up feeling kind of more uppy. It's just what happens with throat placement. You have a more forward embouchure down slightly, right? Not unnaturally. I'm not like giving myself pain in the jaw or something. No, very natural as can be. Just O or U. Yeah, and this just changes everything. Changes the whole game. Okay, makes everything feel natural and singing and beautiful in all respects. Slurs down, all the things oboists complain about. You know, all this stuff. It all relates back to the embouchure. So how you make your reeds relates back to the embouchure. What you accept from your reeds relates back to the embouchure. Okay? If you're so there we go. That's all I wanted to say. Hope you enjoyed this. Mwah.